Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands grown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thursday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman with me, and we have breaking news. Jeff Goodman stayed up until 11:59 p.m. last night just so he could be the first one to officially say that the transfer portal, the transfer window is slammed shut. No longer can college basketball players decide that they are going to be transferring. That window is closed. Grad transfers, you got to be in the portal by now. Regular transfers, you got to be in the portal by now. It's an earlier deadline than we've had in the past, Jeff. What is your biggest takeaway from the transfer window in college basketball? Was it good? Was it successful? Did it work closing it earlier? Did it work having the grad transfers have to make their decisions earlier? Where do you stand now that the transfer portal is closed?
Well, first of all, as usual, your sources are incorrect. I was not watching the portal. I did not tweet at 11:59 that the portal was closed. That was one Jeffrey Borzello. So you're mixing up your Jeffs here. I was watching a show with my wife.
Just a clarification right there.
Yeah.
I was referring to the Trilly Donovan account that you also run. So that's where I was confused. I forgot that you didn't log into your burner.
Yeah, I forgot. I'll be better next time. I'm just happy as hell it's over. And I know we're going to talk to Coleman Hawkins for a little bit later on the show. And, you know, he feels like maybe it's too soon for the portal and too soon for maybe the deadline for kids to withdraw from the NBA draft more than the portal itself. But listen, it can't close quick enough for me because this has been the ultimate shit show. I forgot to wear my shirt today. Shit show supervisor, because that's what this is right now. It's a complete shit show. And I feel like the people that were pushing for all these changes in college basketball to happen and the freedom of players and NIL and all this, they just weren't prepared for the lack of I guess, consistency, the lack of rules, the lack of preparation for the NCAA to be able to handle this. And it has been an absolute disaster. With agents being involved, with kids, coaches really having to make these decisions so quickly. I just think it's going to be a mess next year. I think the quality of the game is going to suffer, and we're not talking enough about that. Obviously, kids are getting paid. That's great. But you got the haves and the have-nots right now with NIL. And people will say, well, that was still the case before, right? Kentucky, Duke, they were getting the best players, and the Boston colleges and, you know, the DePauls didn't have a chance. I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't sit right with me with the way this whole thing's going right now. And I know I'm not supposed to say that because, again, we're supposed to be supportive of the players. But, again, when you're paying some of these dudes who are on their fourth school in 4 years or fourth school in 5 years, and their previous three coaches have been fired, or they haven't had success at their previous three schools, and we're paying them all this money when they've been losing basketball players, something's wrong with that. Something's wrong with the kid also, Rob, who's coming in as a freshman in college right now, and because of his recruiting ranking, he's getting paid close to $1 million a year. Something is wrong with the system here.
There's a lot that you just said and a lot that I want to untangle here. First and foremost, I don't think that the portal has ruined the quality of the basketball that we're seeing or ruined the game. I think it's actually raised, specifically NIL, has raised the level of college basketball and how good players are and how good these games are and how good these teams are because it's kept pros in the game for longer. right? It's kept guys that would make a financial decision to go pro, kept them in the game. So we have better basketball players that are staying here for a longer time. And I think that overall raises the level of the game. It also helps that some of these guys are in their 5th and their 6th years, and getting rid of that COVID year is going to change some of this. You are 100% correct when you say that there is no structure to this. And at some point, the NCAA has to find some structure to this. This kind of feels like one of those things where a kid is asking their parent for something over and over and over again. And the parent finally just loses the will to say no, says, all right, F it. You want this? Here, go ahead. See how good you are at this. See how this works out for you. And it feels like the NCAA just said, F it. You know what? NIL, go ahead, do whatever you want. Transfers, go ahead, do whatever you want. Everybody, go ahead, do whatever you want. Instead of actually trying to find a way to be able to make this stuff work in a way that is going to be sustainable. Now, eventually there's going to be some structure to it, right? Whether that is a salary cap, whether that is something similar to the European model, where you have to pay the other school for the transfer, right? So maybe a kid comes in, he's making X amount of dollars a year. To be able to get that kid to come to your program, you got to be able to pay 40% of whatever his NIL deal was with the previous school, right? Maybe it's something like that. There's going to be some way to be able to disincentivize leaving the program and be able to make it be more profitable and better for you to go back to the school that you're at. And eventually we are going to come around to this idea where everybody realizes, like, okay, we went from prioritizing education over everything else in college athletics to completely ignoring the fact that most of these kids need something once the basketball stops bouncing. And eventually we're going to come back to the happy medium. So we went from one extreme to the other extreme without ever meeting in the middle. And that's what we got to do, is we got to find a way to get back to the middle where the education that these guys are getting does matter, because at the end of the day, so many of these dudes are not going to be able to sustain the rest of their life financially through just basketball. You got to be able to find something else and another way to be able to sustain yourself once the ball stops bouncing. And I think
Can I give you one more thing?
Years away from getting, yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Let me give you one more thing that annoys the hell out of me. And I hate it, and I know there's nothing we can do. All right. John L. Davis, Florida Atlantic. He transferred to Arkansas. Great Osibor left Utah State. Trey Townsend went from Oakland to Arizona. Jamari Thomas left Norfolk State. Tucker DeVries went with his dad from Drake to West Virginia. Jordan Durkak he left Merrimack. Zeke Mayo, South Dakota State to Kansas. Terrence Edwards Jr. went from James Madison to Louisville. Ken Evans left Jackson State. All these guys are mid-major-ish. I know John L. Davis doesn't count and Great Osibor, but the other guys, even Braden Smith, the other Braden Smith, is transferring out of Colgate. There is, to my knowledge, one player of the year from a mid-major league, low to mid-major league, one player of the year with eligibility left that didn't decide to go to the NBA, like Dylan Jones went to the NBA from Weber State. Ty and Grant Foster went to the NBA from Grand Canyon. One guy who's decided to stay at his current place. You know who it is? You know what league it is?
I do not.
Should be easy to figure out the league.
Who is it?
The Ivy League. Caden Pierce from Princeton. He's the only one. So again, I understand it. I don't behoove the players because, again, they're getting more money. They're getting a chance to play at a high level. We're seeing some kids transfer out of Harvard with eligibility left, not graduates from Harvard. Now, they're probably going, one went to Malik Mack, went to Georgetown, really good academic school. Another might go to Stanford. But it's such a farm system now if you're a mid-major and you have no chance, zero chance. You evaluate, you take that kid that honestly the high majors looked at and they said wasn't good enough, or he sat down the end of the bench at the Peach Jam and didn't get in the game. You evaluated him, you developed him, and then you say, hey, you know what? Go, man, go. I'm not going to tell you not to go and make 300, 500, 750 grand. We can't pay that. And it gives you a bigger opportunity, a bigger platform, a bigger stage. I get it all. I still hate it all.
Yeah, and I understand that as well. But at the same time, I think that it is the opportunity that all of these kids want, right? The opportunity to go play flying private jets everywhere, playing in front of 14,000 people everywhere. Like, I'm sure Trey Townsend's dad is an Oakland alum. Like, he's known Green Campy forever, right? So he knows what that program is and what it's about.
And he played 4 years there, Rob. I think he played 4 years. He gave Greg Campy 4 years. So again, I that's no.
I get it. I get it. But like, yeah, I get it. But it's also, I don't blame a kid for wanting the opportunity to be able to fly on private jets everywhere and be the star at a major state school playing in front of 14,000 people on national television every night. Right. So I get all of that. I also think there is room for these mid-major programs to find sustained success being the one and dones in their league, where they go out and they get the freshmen and they get the sophomores and they get the transfers that are coming back down from the high major ranks, where they do all this work to identify the guys and say, what we're going to do is develop you back to the point where you're going to be able to get that 6-figure NIL deal after you leave here in college, right? Instead of being Coach Cal selling the NBA to guys and saying, we're going to get you to the pros in 1 to 2 years, you could be the mid-major program saying, we're going to get you to the high major ranks in 1, 2, 3 years. That's what we are. We are the stepping stone. If you kind of lean into that and embrace it, I do think there's a way to be able to develop that way. All right. I do want to talk about Kentucky, because we got to talk about Kentucky, because it seems like they're adding somebody new every single day. But they went out and they added Kobe Bryant officially. We talked about that on Tuesday. I think we all kind of knew that was happening. But the one that was a little bit of a surprise to me, and I don't know if it was a surprise to you, but Kerr Kriisa is leaving West Virginia and transferring to Kentucky. And I will tell you this, Headband Kerr playing for Mark Pope is the kind of team that has all of the vibes, Goodman, all of the vibes. Let's start with this. Kerr Kriisa going to Kentucky. How do you feel about that?
I mean, he better bring the headband back. You know, he got rid of the headband at West Virginia, and it didn't feel right.
His powers.
Right. It didn't feel right. So, Kerr, if you're listening, bring the headband back, because Big Blue Nation, they're going to love you. They're going to love you because you talk shit, you have fun, you make shots. Mark Pope wanted him when he transferred from Arizona to West Virginia. He went after him then. So they've had a relationship for a while. Kerr looked at, for a while, St. John's, Cincinnati. Those didn't work. So he ends up at Kentucky and gives them another good player. Like, they've got a bunch of good players now. Can I give Kentucky fans a great Kerr Kriisa story? I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm going to, because I think you know this story. So I'm out there for a game in Tucson at McHale a couple years ago. And earlier in the season, UCLA had beaten Arizona at Pauley Pavilion. And Mick Cronin called the timeout with like 30 seconds left or a minute left. And they were up like 10, 12, 15 points. So Arizona's up again, like 10 points with like 30 seconds left. And all of a sudden, somebody calls a timeout. And everybody's looking over at the bench like, was it Tommy Lloyd? Who was it? Kerr Kriisa. Kerr Kriisa was basically like, F you to Mick Cronin. You did that shit to us. I'm going to call a timeout when we're up 10 points at the end of the game. And that's what Kentucky fans, they're going to love this kid. Because, again, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. He plays with kind of a fire. He makes shots. And I think he's matured, Rob. That's the biggest thing about Kerr Kriisa. He really has matured now. He doesn't talk as much shit, and his game has matured. And he knows kind of his role now. He's not going in there thinking he's going to play 35 minutes and carry this team. He wants to win after the shit show that he played in last year in Morgantown.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk shit when you're on a 9-23 West Virginia team that finished at the bottom of the Big 12. Like, who are you talking to? There's not a lot of teams that you could talk to. I will say this about Kentucky is, and you kind of have alluded to this too, but I feel like they are completely loaded right now with every role piece and every option and every kind of secondary guy that you want. My big question is, do they have a star? Do they have a guy that you can trust in crunch time? Do they have someone that you could throw the ball to get you a bucket at the end of a shot clock? Like, it feels like they're missing, honestly, they're missing Janelle Davis. They're missing somebody at that level. And I don't know if there's
Even
anybody
Jackson
in the portal
Robinson.
at that level for them.
Even a Jackson Robinson would help, right? If they can get him. And I talked to a couple NBA players, the BYU transfer played for Mark Pope, and they said the range that he'd probably be drafted in is somewhere 40 to undrafted. Does Jackson Robinson pull his name from the NBA draft process at some point and decide, you know what, I'm going to go play for Mark Pope again now in Lexington, Kentucky, because he's kind of what they need, a guy who can make plays off the bounce.
Well, that's actually an excellent segue, Jeff, because the next thing that we are going to talk about here on this show are the most influential NBA draft stay or go decisions that we currently have. Because there's a few, Alex Caravan, PJ Hall, a couple more that we really need to sit here and discuss. That's coming up next. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live. It is Thursday night, streaming over on Stadium and streaming on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman. We are breaking down some of the most influential NBA draft stay or go decisions. We're not talking here, Jeff, about Donovan Clingan or Steph Castle or Reed Shepherd or Robert Dillingham or the guys that we know are going pro, that we know are staying in the draft. We're here to talk about some of the guys where they're that 50-50 decision. They're that, well, do I want to go and take a two-way and maybe go undrafted? Do I want to come back to school and maybe make a bit of money here? We've seen some decisions kind of get made. Ryan Kalkbrenner announced yesterday that he is going to be coming back to Creighton this season. We've already heard Hunter Dickinson say that he's going back to Kansas this season. It sounds like Harrison Ingram most likely is going to be in the NBA next season instead of coming back to North Carolina. I think that was probably, I don't know, one of us said it on the last show. I don't want to throw anyone on.
No, you said it. Not one of us. Wait. Don't throw the blame on me. Carolina fans are on your ass right now, and rightfully so, because
I don't know,
you
man.
said you thought.
I don't know. No. I don't know if it was me. I honestly don't remember. It was one of us. I don't want to put the blame on anybody. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. It might have been Fanta. Who knows? It could have been anyone. We say a lot of stuff on this show, Goodman. Anyway, I want to dive into some of these decisions because we also are going to hear from Coleman Hawkins later on in the show, and he's got a very interesting decision on his hands as well. But for my money, and tell me if you think this is crazy, I think the single biggest decision that has to get made right now, and the guy that's going to have the biggest impact on what college basketball looks like next season is going to be our guy, Nelly Davis, who committed to Arkansas. Was that Tuesday night, Wednesday night? At some point, he committed to Arkansas. I can never keep dates straight, but Nelly Davis, most important decision in terms of stay or go right now for NBA draft early entrance. What make you of that?
I would say Mark Sears for me might be more important. What he did for Alabama, taking them to the Final Four last year. And if he comes back, I think they're going to have even more around him than they had a year ago. You know, Grant Nelson's back, certainly. You know, Jaren Stevenson, I think, comes back. I think he put his name in for the NBA draft process, but he'll come back for sure. So, I think Nelly Davis is a big one. He is. And we've talked about this for a while. Because we've kind of known the writing was on the wall for him to go to Arkansas. How great a match it is for Nelly Davis and John Calipari. But I think Mark Sears has proven it. Nelly Davis He proved it too at FAU, obviously helping him to go to a Final Four 2 years ago. But they were disappointing last year as a team. And he was great individually. But I still wonder, like, the chemistry of that group, right? Was Nelly Davis being great? Did that hurt the chemistry of the group at all? I don't know some of that. So I still think Cal's going to have to kind of figure out how to handle Nelly Davis, but nobody does that better than John Calipari.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned about that because I do think it's going to be kind of a situation, especially if you look at what's on this Arkansas roster right now, where it's going to be Nelly's show, and you got to find a way to be able to build around him. So I'm not that concerned about it. And look, like the way that the kid plays, whatever he is in a locker room or anything, I don't see concerns. I also think that the kid plays his ass off 95% of the time, and give me a guy like that. So I think he needs to be a first-team All-American for Arkansas to be good enough to the level that we want him to be. I love the Mark Sears call as well. I don't know why he would go pro right now unless he was just done with college basketball. And as an Alabama kid playing for Alabama, with a chance where if you get Mark Sears back and they find a way to be able to get a commitment from Cliff Amore, who I believe just finished his visit to North Carolina. I'm not sure the timeline on that, but if you get both of those guys at Alabama, then like we got to have a real talk about whether or not Kansas should be the number one team in college basketball and Alabama shouldn't. Right. So I love both of those. I'm going to throw another one at you. All right. Alex Caravan. I think if there's one concern that I have with this UConn team right now, it's that I don't know if they have, again, I don't know if they have a stud. I don't know if they have the star. I don't know if they have the guy that can be an all Big East / All-American caliber guy. And I think if Alex Caravan comes back, one thing we've seen with UConn over the years, Jeff, they always have someone making that breakout. They always have someone taking that step forward, whether it was RJ Cole 2 years ago, whether it was Jordan Hawkins and Adama Sanogo the year they won in 2023, whether it was Tristan Newton and Donovan Clingan this past season. To me, if AK is back, he's the guy that takes that leap, and he's kind of the focal point of what they do offensively.
Yeah, I can't believe you haven't mentioned Caleb Love by now. I mean, that's your guy.
Well, he was going to be next.
And I do feel like, again, I know I've been harsh on him in the past, and I know you don't know what you're going to get out of him sometimes, but the bottom line is Arizona needs Caleb Love. They need him back because where are you going to get 17 points a game? Where are you going to get a guy that I'm not comfortable giving the ball to Jaden Bradley and saying, hey, go make a basket. I know he did it in the NCAA tournament, but he did it as a secondary option without a ton of pressure on him. If you move Jaden Bradley up to the top of the scouting report, Rob, it's a different ballgame. He's not ready for that. That's not his game. You need a Caleb Love. Now, again, you need a Caleb Love who takes another step forward, in my opinion. And could he do that? He took a major step forward from last year to this year in terms of defensively, and even like his decision-making was better. It's never going to be great, but it was better. Can he take one more step forward? I think Arizona needs Caleb Love back.
Yeah, they do. I also think they need another kind of like big athletic wing, right? And I don't think that I really love Trey Townsend's game. I don't know if he is, if you're playing him at the 4 alongside one of these other big guys at the 5, I think you're going to run into some of the same issues that you ran into 2 years ago when you had the big Tubelis and Ballo playing together on the front line. I got another one for you. All right. And I don't know where you stand on this guy, but PJ Hall still has a year of eligibility left. Now, it might be the kind of thing where
I think he's gone, Rob. Like, there's a very, very, very small chance I think he returns, but I think PJ Hall, I would not, if you're a Clemson fan, I would not expect him back.
Yeah. That's kind of the sense that I got. I know that there were other programs that were putting out feelers to find out if there was a chance that they could get him to put his name in the portal and leave Clemson. And obviously that did not end up coming to fruition. What about Walter Clayton at Florida? I know that was one of those weird situations where there was something wrong with like the people that were declaring up some kind of paperwork issue. So there were names that came out after the fact, and Walter Clayton Jr. was one of the names that came out after the fact. Averaged 17.6 points per game this past season at Florida. Shot maker, bucket getter. And if you kind of look at who Florida targeted in the portal, like they have some talent coming back, and they got Elijah Martin, they got Sam Alexis from Chattanooga. Like there's a pretty good setup right now for this Florida program if they can get Walter Clayton Jr. back.
Hey, where's he going? That's what I ask you. Like, where's Walter Clayton Jr. going? Like you got to come back. And I love Walter Clayton Jr. I love him. You know that. But I don't think there's even a question here to me if a guy like that comes back. So, there again, like you said, there are a few decisions that you look at and you're like, okay, they might have real decisions. But again, even Jonell Davis, I was surprised, Rob, when I hit up like 4 or 5 GMs and number 2 guys for NBA organizations, and I said, where do you guys have Jonell Davis? I expected them to say like, maybe in the 30 to 50. And most of them were like 40 to undrafted, like two-way for Jonell Davis. That surprised me. Again, when I watch him, I see something different. Again, I've been wrong plenty, but these NBA guys have been wrong plenty too. I just see a guy that in the second unit, especially in a draft like this, he can fill a major role because he can shoot it from deep. He can pull up. He can get to the basket and finish. He rebounds his position. He's got some shit to him. He's tough. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm missing here that the NBA guys don't like about him.
I got another one for you. Hunter Salas at Wake Forest. You're getting Cam Hildreth back. Efton Reed looks like he's coming back. They actually did a little bit of work in the portal. I'm curious to see. We've seen the last couple years, Forbes has gotten the absolute best out of transfer that he's brought in. So they're bringing in another 5-star in Omaha Baloo, who did not play that well at Iowa State this past season. But Hunter Salas, 18 points a game, one of the best scorers in the ACC. What do you make of his potential return to Wake Forest?
Yeah, I think he comes back. Again, I think, they got some NIL now. They'll pay Hunter Salas probably more money than he'd make. And he had a hell of a year this year. But, that's one that, it could go either way. And that's really important to me for Steve Forbes, who's also in there for my guy TJ Power. They're in the mix for they recruited him out of high school as well for the Duke transfer. And if they got Salas, Efton Reed, TJ Power, that's a pretty good trio to go in with in the ACC. That would give him a chance. I'm going to give you one more. And it's a guy that wasn't at his place, but it would be a key return for a team that honestly is really got a chance to be pretty good again. And that's Gonzaga, and that's Michael Ajayi. Is that? I always pronounce it wrong. Mm-hmm. The Pepperdine transfer, who averaged about 17 points a game. And if they get him back, like, they're in business. Like, you could be talking about Gonzaga as a contender again, like a legitimate Final Four contender again, which, again, I know I was skeptical whether they'd ever be back in that realm again. But, they're older. They got a lot back. Hickman's gotten better. Nemhard, like they got a lot. And if they bring Ajayi back again, from he's trying out the draft process as well, I think they could have a squad there.
Yeah, I could see it. The other name that I wanted to kind of hit you on, and we'll talk about Coleman Hawkins here in just a second, because you had a long conversation with him that spanned about 46 minutes that we are going to release as a separate episode as itself. But we're going to talk to him for about 10 minutes here coming up next. But I do his return to Illinois. Is that where do you stand on that? Is he potentially coming back? Is this something where, I mean, you talked about it a little bit on the last episode, the importance of protecting yourself when you have this situation where you're two-way with a chance to come back, where you want to be able to keep the market up. Is this something where he's just looking to get leverage? Is this just a protect all cost play? Like, what can you tell us about Coleman Hawkins heading into this interview?
I think like Coleman Hawkins and Trevon Brazile are similar situations, right? The Arkansas transfer, and I think they're both guys that are super intriguing for NBA teams for different reasons, but both they're long, they're skilled, they're athletic, they're switchable. all that. They're probably, somewhere. Brazil a year ago, I think was before he got hurt, played 9 games 2 years ago, got hurt. He was probably on the high end lottery pick for some NBA teams, and he's fallen off a little bit. But I think both those guys are similar in a sense that put your name in the portal, you go through the draft process, you get the feedback, and then you decide what you want to do. And that's smart. That's just smart business for those guys right now, because what you don't want to do is put your name in the draft process, and we'll talk to Coleman a little bit about this, and then you have no leverage. If you don't get what you want from the NBA, you only have one team that you can deal with at that point, and you have no leverage, and you got to take basically what they're offered, and they know you have no leverage. So, I think for both those guys, it's, put every option on the table. A little bit easier for Brazil because, he's a guy that is dealing with a new coaching staff than Coleman Hawkins, who has some loyalty and has stayed with Brad Underwood for 4 years at Illinois. But to me, this is simple, good business for some of these kids.
Yeah. And college basketball is a business, and we talked about that. And honestly, if you are, let's just say you are a player that is in the situation that Coleman Hawkins is in. When you mention leverage, basically the reason why you would do this is you go through the draft process. They say, you know what, you got a chance to get a 2-way, which can get you like $500,000. Let's just say $500,000 and make it easy. So your option coming back to school is basically to Illinois. Can you make this not be the school that you would be coming back to is, can you make this not be a financial decision and match that? Where if you have more than just Illinois, you can say, well, look, I got this $750K offer from school XYZ in the SEC, as opposed to just the offer that I have from the NBA. So you got to be able to make it not be a financial decision by getting to this number. So that's what you're saying about keeping your options open and having leverage. It's not just about whether or not he wants to come back. It's about being able to make the most money that he can in the limited 10-year window that you have as an athlete to be able to be a profitable player. Speaking of Coleman Hawkins, we might as well go get into that interview now. If there's anything that you can say about Coleman, Jeff, is that he is electric to talk to and even more entertaining to listen to. By now, you guys have surely heard about Autograph, an app founded by Tom Brady with the intention of disrupting the way that fans consume content covering their favorite teams. Here's how the app works. All of the podcasters and bloggers and digital creators covering a team have their content sent to that team's page in Autograph. Instead of having to bounce from site to site or try to navigate the only safe for work spaces that are left on X, you just scroll through Autograph. This isn't a hard sell. This is the truth. I'm a UConn fan. I use the Autograph app to keep up with the writers I read and the pods that I listen to. The best part is that every piece of content that you consume gives you reward points. The more you get, the more chances you have at things like discounted tickets and signed memorabilia. Here's the best part. We've partnered with Autograph to donate $1 to the V Foundation every time someone downloads the app using the code F68, with a minimum of $2,500 getting donated. The app is free, so download using the code F68 and help us raise some money and give Autograph a try. I promise you it will be worth it. And while we're here, a quick reminder, make sure that you subscribe to The Daily. We have new landing pages with deep dives into each coaching change, as well as a tracker that provides scouting reports on the transfers that have entered the portal that you are going to want to know about. It's just $50 for the year, which means that for less than $1 per week, you get analysis that our insiders send direct to your inbox every single morning. Hit the link below to subscribe.
All right, now pleased to bring on one of my favorite kids, one of my favorite players to watch over the years because of how he grew. 4 years in college. We don't know if it's done yet. We're not sure if we're completely shutting the door on this thing, and that's why we wanted to have Coleman Hawkins on here. All right, Coleman. 4 years in Champaign, a Sacramento kid, and you finished it the right way, right? I mean, Elite Eight. A lot of people have been kind of hitting on the program a little bit for not getting past the first weekend. First of all, give me your thoughts on potentially finishing your college career with an Elite Eight appearance at Illinois and what it meant to you.
Oh, man. I mean, it was special because, like, as you said, people were on us about not making it past that second weekend, and just hearing all that and everything that's going on. It felt really good, especially like with that freshman team we had. Also, I'll say one thing: when we lost my freshman year, that loss like was just painful, and like because I knew the potential that we had as a team, and I thought we were good. I thought personally, I thought we were the only team who was decent enough to compete with Baylor, who won it that year. But sophomore year loss, junior year loss, and then this year to go out and do what people were kind of complaining about and saying we couldn't do this and that, and to get that far was great. I thought we could have made it to the a Final Four and the national championship game, but UConn's a well-oiled machine and a great team. But it meant a lot to just go out there and get past that first weekend.
All right, so the season's over, and I remember I was in the locker room right after, and I heard you say kind of the words, somebody asked you, and I was kind of in the back there, and I heard you say, my career's done at Illinois or something like that. I forget what the exact words were, but they asked you about whether you come back, and you said, I'm pretty much done at Illinois. You put your name in for the draft. You're going to go through the process, and then all of a sudden, Matt Norlander puts it out at CBS that you're going to put your name in the portal, and all hell breaks loose. Everyone's like, "What's going on? He's going to come back and transfer. So tell us in your own words, kind of where your head's at right now as you go through the draft process and also put your name in the portal."
All I wanted to do was kind of just slip in there without even announcing anything.
Good luck.
But yeah, I mean, but you did a great job of explaining everything. It's simply off of honestly what I can call a mistake I didn't do last year. I didn't play my cards right, and if everyone knows me as a loyal guy, and that's kind of what went into that. Last year, I didn't want to put my name in the portal, although, my father was telling me, business is business. And this wasn't a transfer portal to go and leave and get more money. This was transfer portal to negotiate and still end up at Illinois. And I didn't play those cards right. I'm not going to speak on what I made or anything like that, but I definitely think if, things were different and I would have played my cards right, it could have been a better outcome. And this is stuff that I've never complained about. You've never seen actions from me on the court complaining about what I made, anything like that. I'm always grateful for whatever
you made good money, right? You made pretty good money. You could have made more.
Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for everything, but I say this is just preventing a mistake I didn't do last year, if anything, to kind of help me. And especially if it's going to be my last year somewhere, I want to try to maximize and make as much money as I can, like anybody else in the world would do. So, no, it's nothing to do with like, I'm done with Illinois. I hate the coaching staff. I've been here for 4 years. We just got Coach O, which I love, who recruited me. It has nothing to do with people leaving or anything like that. It's simply based off of just trying to play my cards right, and maximize the amount of money I can in this next year, because I didn't get an opportunity to do it my junior year. That deadline, I will say that deadline does suck, because you try to pile in as much information and there's still a lot that happens after that deadline. So I will say that deadline is, it sucks to work with, but, I didn't play my cards right last year, and I got to look out for myself and be selfish this year, which this selfish isn't harming anybody at all. This selfish is benefiting me. So,
because the part you haven't talked about yet is your focus is to the NBA. That's your focus at this point. And this was more of a just in case, correct?
Yeah.
Like you told me you think the chances are pretty strong here that you are not going to play another year in college, but but this is there in case you decide to do so at the last minute. Do you feel like you'll probably take it right to the end again? Or does it just depend on what feedback you get? Like, what would it take, I guess, is I guess what I'm asking now, and you may not know the answer to that right now, but like if we're talking a two-way, which for people that don't know, a two-way contract pays what, Coleman, $500,000-$600,000 now?
Well, it's around 600 plus. I'm pretty sure you get another 200 for playing 20 games, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
So
So let's say you're guaranteed a two-way. We'll just kind of play this scenario through. I don't know if you want to play the scenario through here on the show, but let's play it anyway. You get a two-way. Teams say, tell your agent you're going to be drafted somewhere in maybe the 30s or 40s. 40s, most 40s are going to get a two-way. Do you then, like, how do you go through this process at that point? Are you talking to teams? Is your agent going to talk to teams? Are you, because there's probably 15 guys this year that are going to make $1 million. The market has completely changed from a year ago. It has. It's like doubled, which I'm sure you're aware of by now.
I'm fully aware. I'll say this, and this is where that deadline, it sucks that I believe last year it was like around, I don't even know, like May 29th. I don't know what the deadline was to withdraw last year. This is where it sucks because all you can do is try to get your agent to gather as much information based off of team workouts in the combine, which after the deadline, you have so many days for so many other workouts. And before the combine, some people don't even work out with teams, right?
Right.
Yeah. So a guy like me last year, I was going to get it. All the information I was getting was going to get a two-way, We'll get drafted, but he's going to get a two-way. So this deadline's coming. I'm not in the transfer portal last year. So now I'm like, hey, it's Coleman. I'm thinking about coming back to school. What do you think we can do? So I'm having to hear this offer compared to a two-way. So now I'm stuck. Yeah. But people don't realize there's so many different things that happen after that deadline. For instance, Trace Jackson Davis, I worked out with him in the Warriors workout, right? Yeah. I'm hearing two-way, but they don't have that 57th pick that he was picked or whatever during that time. So I do a workout with them. They only have the pick that they pick with Pods during that time. The season ends after the deadline. They make a trade. Now they have that pick. So in my head, I'm like, gosh darn, if only I stayed in, I could have potentially. And Trace got a guaranteed deal.
Good.
So there's so many different things that can happen. And that's why I don't think that deadline is very fair because all these trades happen. This guy, you know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to be safe. If anything happens or I'm hearing this, right now I'm hearing going to get drafted for sure. Potentially a two-way, potentially guaranteed. Everyone's saying this draft is wide open. So I think, I've talked with Coach Underwood with the numbers I put up this year as far as like shooting and everything like that, percentages, efficiency. I think I have the potential to go in and work out, try to get a guaranteed deal, move up to shoot the ball well. But it's just so challenging because you never know what can happen. So it could be an injury, knock on wood. It could be anything like that. So I just wanted to play my cards right and be in a comfortable spot where I can negotiate and get leverage and remain a mystery at the same time. So it all works in my favor.
Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of The Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you'll want to listen up.
This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at one of the hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/unified68 to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/UNIFYD, the number 6, the number 8. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. If you just heard that snippet of the Coleman Hawkins interview, make sure you stay locked to the Field of 68 After Dark and the Field of 68 After Dark podcast feed, because we will be dropping that full interview, all 46 glorious minutes of it, on Friday afternoon at noon Eastern time, the only legitimate time zone. Goodman, what I want to get into you here, get into with you now here, is coaching grades, right? The coaching carousel has essentially finished for all intents and purposes when it comes to the biggest jobs and the biggest names and the biggest holes that have been filled. We polled 6 members of the Field of 68 that are on that, including the 2 of us, so 4 other people that are consistently on the show. And we asked for a grade for each of the biggest coaching hires. And we're going to roll through what some of these grades are. We're going to roll through what some of the worst graded hires were. And I want to start with the biggest programs, right? That's where I want to start. I'm going to start with Louisville, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Probably, I think you can correct me if you disagree, but I think those are the 3 biggest jobs that were filled during this recruiting cycle. And we could put Dusty May in there as well, but we'll get to him in a second at Michigan. I think it's more interesting to get in these 3 that have been lumped together throughout the entire offseason. So let's start with this. We had Mark Pope was a B- according to our crew. Coach Cal was a B+ according to our crew, and Pat Kelsey was a B+ according to our crew. I'm probably higher on Pope than anybody else was, because I had him rated as an A-. I love the Cal and Kelsey hires, but I actually like Pope more than those 2. Considering, am I crazy, and am I the one that is not thinking about Pope to Kentucky correctly here?
Listen, I've learned a long time ago, when you do these grades, you got no idea. Listen, we thought Archie Miller was going to crush it. Most people at Indiana thought Chris Mack was going to crush it at Louisville. And then there have been some other ones that have done a great job that I didn't expect. Andy Enfield at USC. I don't know what I graded him then and when I stopped grading, but I never would have predicted that one. And largely because that one was, I remember probably grading it, if I did it, right away, quickly, and not waiting for the fact that he went out and hired Jason Hart and Tony Bland on his staff. So I've learned over the years, I'm not grading a coach specifically on that head coach hire. I'm grading it once I see his staff as well. Now, again, as I put out there yesterday, a staff isn't nearly as important today as I think it was 10, 20 years ago. It's NIL as much as anything. You better be able to raise that money and have the connections with the big boosters and the money people within that program. So listen, I think they're all good hires. I do. I think they're all going to be good hires. And I think it's hard to screw it up in Lexington, Kentucky, unless your name is Bully Clyde Gillespie. Let's face it. I think in Arkansas, it's going to be hard for Cal to screw this thing up. If you give Cal these type of resources, which he's had at Kentucky, I know he hasn't done anything in the NCAA tournament the last 4 years, but I think he'll be ultra motivated right now, especially to show Kentucky fans, screw you. Like I think that's going to be one of the things right now at 65 years old that kind of gives him a little bit more juice, a little more pop, a little more motivation. And then I think Kels, listen, he's the antithesis of what they had previously. He just is. He's organized. He's a grinder. He brings intensity. He brings passion. He brings emotion, all of that. So I think for different reasons, all three of these guys are going to be good. Are they going to be national title good? I don't know. I mean, that's hard to say right now, but I think they're all going to, Louisville's going to flip quickly. Kentucky's going to have a chance to go past the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. And Arkansas is the one that you look at, Rob, and you're like, all right, like Muss had this thing rolling, except for this past year. He had it rolling. Can Cal's got higher expectations than those other guys, because if he goes to, Sweet 16s a couple years in a row with a huge bankroll, is that going to be enough for a fan base that just saw Elite Eights from Eric Musselman?
Yeah, I mean that's my thing with the Cal hire, right? Is I think he's going to be able to get talent in there. There's no doubt look, you give Cal a bag of money that's as big as the bag that Arkansas is giving him, and he's going to be able to find a way to win a bunch of games, get a bunch of talent in there, right? My question is, the last 3 years before in 2021, 2022, and 2023, Muss was averaged 25 wins. He averaged 11 wins in the SEC, right? Remember, in 2023, the year they made it to the Sweet 16, they finished under 500 in the SEC. So it's not like the writing wasn't on the wall here a little bit. They were 22-14 that year. But they averaged number 20 on KenPom, right? We're not talking about a program that was sitting here as one that you would circle and say throughout the season, yes, they can go out and win a national title, right? They weren't in that realm. And I'm just wondering if Cal does that, if Cal replicates it. Let's just say he goes 22-14 this year, 8-10 in the SEC, finishes 22nd in KenPom, and makes a Sweet 16. Will that be enough for Arkansas fans to be happy? And I think he'll probably be better than that. And my biggest concern with him isn't being able to get the talent in. My biggest concern is whether or not he's going to find a way to make that talent play at a level that is modern basketball. I love the Kelsey hire for all the reasons that you mentioned, and he's going to flip it quick. And I just think giving Kentucky fans one of their own and a guy with like a relentless level of positivity. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know Mark Pope as well as you do, Goodman, but every time that I've spoken with him, it's been, the energy has been there. The vibes have been there. The positivity has been there. He's engaging to talk to. And the best part about it is I say this about Fana all the time, right? Is that none of it feels fake. None of it feels forced. And it's hard to be a person that gives away that vibe without that vibe ever coming across as fake. And I've never in my interactions with Mark Pope has come across as fake. So I'm all in on that hire. Let's get to some of these other, I want to start with we gave out four better than 4 A grades. Josh Schertz to St. Louis, an A+, Chris Mack to Charleston, an A+, Muss to USC, an A-, Kyle Smith to Stanford, an A-. And what I would say about all 4 of those is that those are coaches that got hired at, what's the best way to phrase this? At jobs that weren't maybe as high as that we value their coaching acumen, if that makes sense. Like Mack in the CAA is like I feel confident saying he's going to be very, very good there, right? Josh Schertz going to St. Louis. I'm very shocked that he didn't end up getting one of the Power 5 jobs that were available. Kyle Smith is a hell of a coach, and somehow people just don't seem to realize this. And then Muss going to USC is Muss going to USC. Out of those 4, who do you think made the, I'm doing air quotes here, best hire?
I mean, don't I have to say Matt Roberts at College of Charleston because I'm going to live there? Like, don't I have no choice but to say that? Although it really is going to be awful. I'm going to have to see Mac and Matt McCall. Like, I'm going to go out for coffee.
Here's the problem, Jeff. You said that you can't evaluate a hire until you see their staff. And we saw Chris Mack go out and hire Matt McCall. So, like, I was immediately out on Chris Mack as a head coach as soon as I saw that staff.
I don't know. All I know is if I see McCall walking down King Street in the morning when I get down there at like 9 a.m., I'm going the other way. I'm running the other way. I think all those hires are pretty good. I would say the one to me that I think is going to be really interesting is Musselman and USC. Okay, because again, we know the Muss bus was rolling for a while, and Arkansas fans really only turned on him because they felt like he turned on them, right? They knew he wanted out, so they were like, screw you, get the hell out of Fayetteville. But what Muss did there was nothing short of amazing. Like, that program had been irrelevant for what, 25, 30 years, basically, right? Like, Mike Anderson was supposed to be the savior there, and he couldn't do it. Pelfrey failed. Like, everybody kind of failed. Then Muss goes in there and takes them to, again, a couple Elite Eights, a Sweet 16. They're nationally relevant again. You know, can he do that at USC? Enfield did a really good job, too, for a while, by the way. He did. It's a hard job, but, man, if you get it rolling there, it's still LA, it's USC. There's a ton of money there. So I think that one at the highest level is going to be one to watch. Again, Mac's going to be successful. We know that at Charleston. Schertz is going to be successful at St. Louis. And Kyle Smith is successful everywhere he goes, although Stanford is a really, really, really difficult job.
Yeah, he doesn't need NIL. He doesn't need players. He doesn't need anything. He's just going to find a way to win. Like, you think Stanford's a hard job? He's won at Columbia. He's won at San Francisco, and he won at Washington State. Like, what are we talking about here? Stanford is like by far the best job he's ever had, and the closest he's had to a good job in the league. And this year, you know what league he's going to be in, Jeff? Do you even know? Do you know where Stanford is playing this year? What conference?
ACC, right?
Dude.
Okay.
That still blows my mind that Stanford's going to be in the ACC this year. Like, I've kind of gotten around.
We need to do a quiz. Hey, next time we have like RC or TO or somebody like that on, maybe Hansbrough. Maybe we do a quiz with Hansbrough. What league are they
in? Hey, Tyler, do you know that? Can you name half the teams in the ACC?
Where's Washington State, Tyler?
That'd be fun. That would be fun. All right. Here's the one that was the most surprising to me, and we can be quick and we can end on this. Dusty May got a B. Why do you think Dusty May only got a B?
I just think there's a lot of people that still aren't convinced of Dusty May. They feel like 2 years ago, he kind of hit lightning in a bottle a little bit. And last year they underachieved. And, you know, there are probably some people, myself not included, that feel like, is he going to be able to handle the high major? Is he going to be able to handle the NIL? Listen, what I'll tell people is, trust me, and I've said this, Dusty May's got way more shit to him than people realize. I've been around this guy for 20 years, since he was like a GA at Indiana years ago under Mike Davis. Like, this dude is going to figure it out. And, oh, by the way, again, I talked about staff, Rob, and how important it is. Last I checked, he's got a guy named Mike Boynton on staff as his top assistant. Trust me, Boynton's going to figure this shit out and help him.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I think that Dusty is necessarily like the great, like I'm not saying I think he's the second coming of John Wooden. I just think that I was surprised to see the grade where it kind of shook out based off where it was and based off of the success that what Dusty did when he was at FAU with no resources, and now he's at Michigan with kind of all the resources that he wants. Listen, this has been fun. Goodman, we are going to be here every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:00 until the NBA draft. We're going to figure out what we're doing over the summer then. And we will have plenty of NBA draft content coming for you now that the transfer portal has slammed shut. So for Jeff Goodman, for our producer, Dagan Hughes, we'll see you guys Tuesday night.